Hey everybody, I'm Steve Moore.
And I'm Mark Castleman.
We know the pain and heartbreak of porn and sex addiction.
And we know the triumph of breaking completely free.
Every day, we help our clients find hope and healing.
Join us in the fight to take back your life, your marriage, and be stronger than ever.
This is the PBSC Squared Podcast. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the PBSC Podcast. Steve Moore and Mark Castleman here coming at you with episode 295. As you can see, the title is you could call them anything. It's a compelling one, to be sure. My partner uses porn to punish me for not losing weight. How do I recover from that? Pretty interesting submission. It's not too long, so I'm going to go ahead and just read it, and then Mark's going to open up with some thoughts. I know he's got some passion to share about this, and I'm kind of excited to see what he's going to say. He was kind of cryptic about it when we were getting ready today. So everybody buckle up. It's going to be good. And here we go. This from a partner. My husband and I have been together for 20 years, married for 15. He's used porn since he was young and told me for years he wasn't going to give it up. So for years, he was just obstinate about it. Through the years, my weight has fluctuated due to jobs, pregnancy, stress, and health issues. I've never been quote unquote fat, but I was carrying a little more than I'd like sometimes, which, as all of us know, men and women, that's just called life. That's just how it works. My husband has used my weight, which never got out of control, as an excuse to look at porn and masturbate. I've always been available and wanting to be intimate with him. However, for years, he would deny me and resort to porn. He's told me many, many times that he's not attracted to me due to my weight, unquote. Recently, he finally admitted that he has a problem, and we've been working on it together. He revealed to me that he would actively seek out porn and deny me sexually to quote-unquote punish me for not losing the amount of weight he wanted. My husband and I love each other very much, but he spent years pushing me away and being generally unkind. I hear all the time that women should know that their men find them desirable and that their men still find them attractive despite their porn use. In a situation like mine, where my husband has told me for years I didn't fit his quote-unquote ideal, how do I recover? How can I come back from this decades-long self-esteem massacre by him and feel like a truly loved woman with worth? Thank you so much for reading and for your podcast. It's really been so helpful for me. Well, thank you, partner, for writing in, and we're going to talk about this here. And Mark's obviously got a lot to say, but we are both grateful you wrote in and sorry that you find yourself in that place, and we're looking forward to addressing it today.
Yeah. Yeah, Steve and I prepared for today. I told him, I said, man, I got to get some stuff off my chest before we go into the main part of the podcast because I won't be able to hold it back. I have some deep passion about this submission. First, my heart goes out to this partner. Can't imagine I can imagine a little bit. I was born with a pretty significant birth defect. It's over a good part of my upper body. And so I do understand what it's like to be teased and ridiculed and joked about and shunned the whole time I was growing up, because your body image doesn't fit, the glitzy glossed, Hollywood pornography ideal. So I have a feel for that. But she said some things here that really hit me really hard, right? First of all, is he's used porn for years since he was young, and he's not going to give it up. So the obstinance of it, right? He obviously does not have a clue, or else he's very much in denial about the deep impact of his ongoing porn use in the face of, having made a commitment, a serious commitment after, 15 years ago, that he would be exclusive to her, that he would be faithful, that he would only have those feelings for her. And then that's what was promised. That's what was agreed to. And now he just obstinately says, nope, I'm going to go and be unfaithful with all in this digital world. Tough, too bad. So that hit me pretty hard. And the fact that she says over the years her weight has fluctuated due to what? She's working out of the home, right? She's holding down a job to help provide for their family. She's brought kids into the world. She's been under tremendous stress and health issues, right? Listen to the sacrifice, listen to the investment in the relationship and the family. But where's the appreciation and the compassion and the gratitude for that? Just to focus on pieces and parts. Another thing she says that he's used his weight as an excuse to look at porn and masturbate. Right? What
Or used her way as an excuse.
her used her weight, right,
Yeah.
as his excuse.
Yes.
This is what I'm hearing through this is what hit me really hard. As men, can we just talk frank for a minute? Because of the way we're raised in a male culture and the lack of really healthy, mature male adults to model to us as we're growing up, we have a world filled with mostly immature men. And I hear immaturity throughout this entire submission. And I can relate to this. I held down a job. I, in many ways, was a responsible adult. But when it came to issues like this, I was a 13-year-old when I first picked up the pornography and masturbation habit. In some ways, emotionally and maturity-wise, I stayed 13. This sounds like a 13-year-old talking to his wife.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give up my porn. It's your fault. If you would lose weight, then I wouldn't have to do, like, you can hear the immaturity that just laces through this whole thing. And I lovingly am going to invite this guy, if he's listening, dude, it is time to grow up. And I had to face that. Steve had to face that. All the guys we've worked with for decades, this is something we have to face. Our extreme, in some areas of our lives, extreme immaturity. And so that's a message I wanted to give. And then how he sexually punished her by withholding physical intimacy to punish her for not weighing the amount he wanted her to. Again, extreme immaturity, very narcissistic behaviors, tendencies, right? It's all about me, me, me. That's more of this immaturity that we're talking about. Now, she says something that I'm going to kindly challenge a bit. My husband and I love each other very much.
So interesting you're touching on this because I was going to touch on this as well.
Oh,
We didn't talk about it before.
we love each other very much. I'm going to call into question whether this guy understands what love even is. Because she says right after that, we love each other very much, but he spent years pushing me away and being generally unkind. Does that sound like love? I mean, I think we have a twisted, narrowed view because of the media and Hollywood and all the stuff that we've been infiltrated with about what love is.
Yeah.
I don't hear that at all. I don't hear a mature love, a sacrificing love, a grateful love. And then the last one, to get it off my chest. I hear all the time that women should know that their men find them desirable and attractive despite their porn use. Really? Women should just know this. I'm off secretly behind closed doors in my own private little session looking at thousands of naked women, but you should know that I really find you attractive. I mean, that's one of the most absurd things I've ever heard. Anyway, let's get into this more in depth. There's just some thoughts up that Mark had to get off his chest to open this thing up.
Well, and I appreciate that, and maybe honestly, Mark, with that opening, maybe we'll just kind of switch around what we have in terms of production notes
Yeah.
on the fly, and we'll start with his side of the street, and then we can come
Yeah.
back to hers. Maybe we just do that because we're already starting there.
I think that's a good.
And I really did hone in on that same phrase that Mark just mentioned as well. It was interesting because and as much as I hate to admit it, in regard to that statement that this partner made, my husband and I love each other very much. That could have easily been Brittany, before we got into my wife, before we got into serious recovery. And I can authentically say, because I hear what Mark is saying, I can authentically say that at least for me, I did love Brittany. I did. But, and here's the big but, I didn't love myself, and I wasn't very good at loving in general. And so even though I did love her, it was by no means sufficient or what she deserved.
And it wasn't a mature,
No.
developed,
And I guess I'll just yeah, I guess I'll just say to any guy who's listening to this who can maybe resonate with that, gentlemen, we know that in some ways you are, at least in some ways, if not in many ways, you are definitely trying and to some degree probably succeeding. The fact that you're listening to this podcast is huge, but
true.
we need to learn to love better.
We
We do.
do.
We need to learn to love better. There are reasons why we are so poor at it. Mark and I just recently attended a really high-end training on some of the latest kind of and greatest stuff coming out about not just betrayal trauma, but addiction and sexual compulsion and where it stems from and the roots behind it. And we were just a lot of it was a refresher, but it was very refreshing for Mark and I to be there and just have it, reiterate what we teach all the time in Dare to Connect and on this podcast, that there are reasons behind the things that we do. We all carry our own wounds and our own scars, but those can never become excuses for the
Yeah.
way we show up or don't show up for a partner. They simply can't.
Well, and my being passionate at the beginning of this, I know that it would be easily interpreted by guys listening as me pounding the pulpit or being self-righteous or coming down on them hard. Guys, this whole submission, I think the reason it made me so passionate is because in too many ways, this is a description of me in my deep addiction years. This is Mark. There were times my wife gave birth 6 times. There were times where I would hold her weight gain against her, times when I would pout and I would be moody and I would be critical and I would be, dissatisfied and use it as an excuse to go to sex, pornography and self-sex. I can relate to this. And so the passion you hear is part of it is just how I feel about that old me and what I wish somebody had given me real raw and real talk back in those years to just confront me, head on, face up with this stuff. That's why I'm so passionate. Not
Yeah.
because I'm better than you, because I have been this guy. And man,
Yeah.
I hope he can get it and start to make some serious changes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, while we're talking and while we're on this side, we wanted to, because there are a lot of ways we could approach this submission, and obviously these podcasts are short. As always, if you want to hear expanded views on this, as well as more about some of the latest and greatest happening at Dare to Connect, and there is a lot ranging from the Dare to Connect forum coming online here shortly, where new levels of interaction can happen between those who are in the program, our program for spouses and couples, to new academy courses on lust versus attraction, to all sorts of other things. We have lots of great things to offer, along with the weekly, multiple times a week session support for you in your coupleship. If you want to level up recovery, please come join us at daretoconnectnow.com. There's a 2-week trial you can grab there, and we'd love to see you in the program. But with the short time we do have on the podcast, let's tackle kind of, we're going to break this down into both her side of the street and his side of the street. Okay. Not in terms of ownership, because I think the ownership piece is pretty clear as far as the actual problem goes. But there is a need to discuss and to outline and to be very clear about where is the ownership in terms of the solution. This is one of the hardest things for couples, I think, to understand, especially for partners, because trauma is a one-way street. And because we can't untraumatize what we traumatize, we can't take back what we have done. There is an existing ever present disparity between who is responsible for trauma and the damage that accompanies it and who is responsible for healing from it. And it is a perpetual, I guess you could say, unalterable unfairness in the universe. It's emotional physics. It's not fair, but it is true that we as addicts can inflict trauma, or we as human beings, I should say, can inflict trauma, but we can't take it back from those that we inflicted upon, whether it's actively or on purpose or accidental or unintended or what have you. And so we have to take a look at that through the lens of, where's the accountability and ownership in terms of responsibility for the damage, but then also how does healing actually occur? Excuse me. And so let's look at that. So on his side of the street, there are many things. Dylan, and I know Mark has more to say about this, but I'll just bring up this first bullet point. The first and foremost that comes to mind for me is we as those who struggle with addiction, we as those who have been the betrayer, we of those who have even been the emotional or otherwise abuser, if that terminology fits, depending on your scenario. It certainly does in a verbal and emotional sense for Mark and I. We talk about that on here all the time. Um, there is a need to take consistent, complete, and ongoing, and that last word is important because sometimes we struggle with that, but the
Mm,
ongoing accountability for the damage that we have caused. There
yes.
may be reasons behind why we do the things we do, man, as we indicated at the beginning, and we talk again more about that in D2C in other episodes. There are reasons why we hurt other people or hold back affection or connection in the ways that we do. But those reasons can never become excuses. And first and foremost, if a coupleship is going to frankly have any hope of recovery, including this one, that accountability has to happen. It is the number one barrier. If accountability can't happen, this coupleship has very little. I'll put it this way: this couple, if both of these people are to remain their authentic, boundaried selves, has no chance of surviving.
No.
No chance.
He and this is a challenge. This is a challenge with virtually every addict. Steve, you and I experienced it. We've worked in the addiction field for decades. Addiction, by its very nature, is myopic, self-serving,
Yeah,
narcissistic, right, in its tendencies. It's all about me, 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 me. One of the greatest challenges we face as addicts is beginning to open ourselves, educate ourselves to the impact that this has had on our partners. We don't understand impact. I didn't. It took me years of opening myself to hear others talk about it, to increase my knowledge. So I was like, wow, I had no idea the impact this was having on my partner. Right? Just this example alone, how he's been critical of her body, of body shape and size and weight, and withheld affection and made it as an excuse to go betray. The impact here is huge. He needs to decide if he's willing to open himself to begin to learn, to be taught, to embrace what that is. You can't make amends for what you don't when you don't understand what you've done.
absolutely. Absolutely. Nor can we adequately, not even just amends, but actually, and this is kind of the fundamental piece beforehand, is the accountability and the actual investment in the process. I
Yes.
wasn't planning on talking about that right now, and we can't go into it much, but I can tell you from experience, guys, from one addict to another, that it was one thing to intellectually connect with my partner's trauma and betrayal, right? I was a therapist at the time, so I guess I had a leg up over maybe the typical guy. It's like, okay, from a structural standpoint, I can understand and recognize that I have caused this. But
Yeah.
what did I do? Just like every other addict, despite the fact that I should know better as a therapist, intellectually recognized it, but didn't emotionally really connect with it
Yeah.
and resonate. And there wasn't that needed empathy of putting myself in that position and really not just understanding from an intellectual standpoint. Okay, here's what's happened. Emotionally connecting with what would this be like if the situation were reversed? What would it be like to be in a relationship where my partner has been in breach of contract more or less our entire relationship when it comes to fidelity?
Hmm.
What would that be like?
Yeah.
I own two businesses, co-owning one with Mark, and we run a podcast together. How would I feel in my relationship with Mark if he were, consistently, you know, screwing me over on whatever element or whatever? Well, the answer is simple. We wouldn't be business partners or friends. And we're both very deeply connected on both of those levels because it's not that way. Right. And that's and if that is true in a business relationship, guys, and I use the business relationship because I think all of us kind of resonate on that a little bit more. Take that and extend it into the emotional now. It's not just a business partner. This is your lifelong person. How would that
Yeah.
be?
Yeah. And if he opens himself to start really understanding and internalizing this deep impact, now that's going to start to have an influence on what he does next.
Yeah.
Right? Making resources available to her for her healing and growth, whatever that takes, right? Support groups, therapy, whatever he needs to do to help create the environment where only she can do her own healing, but he could create the environment where optimal healing is most possible and making everything possible available to her for that purpose. That only comes when you truly start to internalize the impact of what you've done.
Mm.
Right. The next bullet, we have, Steve, this one really resonated with me. Is he even interested in finding out why he has behaved the way he has and does? Yeah. Does he consider it dysfunctional or unhealthy or immature or whatever? And if he does, where did this come from? What's under it? Why do I go to porn and masturbation when I have this loving, willing, wanting to connect partner, and yet I go into this secret sexual basement to go do my thing? Why is that?
Gentlemen, we refer to this as the causes and conditions behind, right? Our addiction, our actions, our inaction. Correcting the behavior is important. Don't get us wrong, because clearly that is one of the goals that we have at play here. But there is a tremendous danger in trying to correct said behaviors without figuring out the reasons why behind it. First of all, the recidivism rate for somebody who has not figured out the reasons why they do what they do for going back and doing it again is like off the charts high. Okay.
100%.
Yeah, because if we don't figure out why we did this in the first place, we're like basically bound to repeat it, because there are reasons why. We talked about this a lot in the Dare to Connect session this morning for addicts. There's a lot. We hope that you guys hear the empathy with us paired with the accountability. Guys, there really are reasons why you do the things that you do. If you are listening to this podcast, we would say that the odds of you setting out one day in your relationship at the beginning to say, you know what, I'm just going to try to screw my wife over, is probably quite low.
Yeah.
I dare say that most, if not none of you listening to this ever found yourself doing that intentionally. Nevertheless, here we ended up. And there are reasons for that. And we have to figure out the why.
Yes.
Right? We have to figure out the why. That's absolutely critical. Not just for our own healing, but frankly for our partners as well. I can tell you from, again, firsthand experience, context does matter in the partner's healing process as well. Brittany and I have put in a tremendous amount of work into our healing. Mark and LaDawn have done the same thing. And I can tell you that I can't tell you Mark's story, but I've heard enough of it to know it's similar to mine. The context in our partner's healing mattered a tremendous amount. Brittany's healing path, if it had happened at all, would be very different if I had set out to just hose her over emotionally, right? For lack of a better term, versus the reasons why I did it. Now, does that make it okay? Of course not. Does it diminish accountability or impact? No. But the needs behind the healing, that isn't just important for you guys to understand and to figure out so that you don't repeat it. It is important for a partner to understand where that was happening so that they can figure out that part of their healing story, and they can then formulate what needs they have around that. And we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Hey, everybody. PBSC podcast hosts Mark and Steve here with a special message about our revolutionary online recovery program for addict spouses and couples called Dare to Connect. Multiple times every week, we get messages from subscribers in the program. They're people just like you. They're trying to heal from the devastation of sex and porn addiction and betrayal trauma. And here's a few of our most recent submissions. Here's one from an addict in recovery. It says, D2C has principles that everyone should utilize regardless of their circumstances. It doesn't matter your coping mechanisms. It matters that you want to work towards genuine connection with your partner.
That's awesome. Another testimony from an addict continues on. My wife is just starting out in training as a licensed therapist. Dare to Connect has been far more useful to her than her degree.
Wow.
The way Mark and Steve apply what they've learned is always so redemptive. D2C has opened doors for my relationship that I thought would be shut forever. Mark and Steve are an incredible resource of information on the subject of sex addiction and betrayal trauma. We could not do this journey without their help.
Here's one from a partner who's been with us for nearly a year. I want you both to know that it is because of you guys and D2C that I'm able to be in the place that I am today. I will always be grateful to you both for your feedback and prompt replies to my questions. I can't even come close to putting it into words how valuable my time spent with y'all this past year has been to my life. Thank you for everything you taught me about betrayal trauma and boundaries and thinking errors and loving myself and making myself a priority and standing up for myself.
Love that submission. And then as we close out here today, guys, one more account from another addict in recovery. I wish I had a platform like this 14 years ago where I could have learned and done the hard work of recovery before I had done all this damage to myself and to my spouse. And to be candid with all of you, that's exactly why we created Dare to Connect. Mark and I found ourselves in that place. Messages like these and the others like them, they're what Dare to Connect really is all about, guys, and why Mark and I do what we do. Whether you're an addict or a partner of an addict, and no matter where you find yourself in the recovery process, Dare to Connect can take you to the next level. Don't wait another day to catapult your recovery forward. Today is your day for change. Visit us at daretoconnectnow.com to pick up your free 2-week trial of Dare to Connect today.
And in addition to him figuring out the whys behind these behaviors, because again, he didn't start out this relationship saying, you know what, I'm going to be a betrayer.
Nope.
I'm going to be an abuser. Because she obviously sees it. She says, we very much love each other. He must have done some things that demonstrate that that's true, although it be incomplete or immature or contradictory in some ways, right? So he didn't start out that way. So the whys, another bullet we have here, Steve, is he's engaging in these betraying behaviors all these years. Why does he then justify it or try to normalize it or try to blame for it? What's preventing him from taking full accountability for making these choices? Why is it someone else's fault, her weight, her this, her that? Why is he concealing it? I doubt that he says to her, hey, honey, I'm going to go look at porn and masturbate now. You want to come with me? So obviously there's concealment here, right? What we call this secret sexual basement life that he's living. What is behind all of that? Why not just own it? Why not just come right out and be transparent and mature and bring it into the full bright light? There are reasons behind all that.
Yes. And oftentimes, guys, just to state the obvious, but for those whose brain probably works like mine did back in the early days, in virtually every case I've ever worked with professionally, we are not emotionally equipped for a variety of reasons to figure that out completely on our own.
Oh, we're not.
You have to have outside input, preferably professional input.
You're too
But
close.
at the very least, working with a sponsor in a 12-step program, working with others, we all have emotional blind spots, and addicts have blinds. I think our blind spots are bigger than our seeing spots, to be honest with you. We more have seeing spots in our blindness, maybe is a better way to put it. And so you need that kind of input to figure that out. Proactively leading out, guys, with ideas and not only making amends to our partners once we have figured this out, but also in transparently seeking ways of pursuing our partner better. Learning their love language, what resonates for them. Why does it resonate for them? This is a difficult hurdle to overcome. One of the biggest barriers Mark and I run into in our couples work, whether it's in D2C or in our individual clinics, is I call it the expert mentality that settles into a coupleship that's been married for a while, right? It's very easy when you've been with your person for a long, long time, even when the relationship's become dysfunctional, to think, what? Well, I'm the expert on this person. I've been married to him for 5, 10, 20, 40 years. So of course I know it. No, you don't. First of all, you wouldn't to begin with, because relationships and the people within them naturally evolve and grow. And so a relationship, among whatever else it is a constant journey of discovery. And that's for a relationship that is relatively stable. In a relationship with betrayal, trauma, and then active repair ongoing, guys, can we just lovingly but firmly tell you, your assumptions are crap when it comes to what your wife is thinking and feeling if you find yourself in this dynamic. Because the evolutionary process in what needs are and the things behind them and the emotions at play shift from day to day, sometimes quicker than that. So if you ain't asking, you don't know.
Well, and there's another significant challenge that gets in the way of all that we see here, that I saw in my own immature approach to my relationship. The physical that's been drilled into our brains by Hollywood, pornography, media, peers, that whole focus on pieces and parts and whether they weigh the right amount or look the right way, that gets in the way of all this other knowing and pursuing and intimate connection. Look, if I'm fully focused on the physical, How is that? That's going to be a wall that prevents me from knowing my partner in any significant way in all these other areas, isn't it?
Yeah.
I just blocked myself right there. Right? So we get into this last category for all of us, if we're in this role of an addict. How do we seek in our own healing to come out of this? Steve, you have here the bull crap behind the damage, right? What pornography has done to us as men? What is all this objectification, turning women into pieces and parts, seeing only a little tiny sliver of other human beings? What has that done to us in
Yeah.
regard to our own damage? What has it done to our ability to know what healthy attraction looks like? What has it done to my ability to see whole people, holistic, valuable, intricate, complicated human beings, as opposed to just some pieces and parts of an eighth of an inch of skin? I
Yeah.
mean, there's some serious stuff going on there for all of us. How is he going to lean in and start to quote see his the entirety of his wife, of his partner?
If you were going to look at this from the Patrick Carnes model, how is he going to reframe and heal his arousal template?
How's he going to
Right.
heal?
That's what we're looking at here. The way he sees and the way he interprets and the way he pursues and puts on a pedestal or values in terms of quote unquote, and these are big air quotes around attraction, has is broken. So, and is that healing from that possible? Absolutely, but it does not happen by itself. And
No,
even if it did, the baseline, gentlemen, that we should be expected to provide for our partners is how the hell we are doing that and what efforts we're making to do it. It is not in any way sufficient or acceptable to just say, "Well, honey, I'm attracted to you now, or I value you better now, or I'm fixed now." Ta-da! No,
yeah. How did that happen? How's
that
it
doesn't work.
happen? Yeah, we
So we
got.
need to be engaging with that and sharing that with partners.
Yeah, we need to face that our arousal templates are broken, and what are we proactively engaging in for them to heal on a regular, consistent daily basis, and how are we checking in with our partners to let them know how that's going?
Yeah.
Critical.
And we know that can be uncomfortable to face, guys, but like the gentleman here in this example, guys, if you have found yourself in any way, even along the lines of this submission, but especially this partner or the addict partner in this coupleship that wrote in, if you have been punishing your partner for weight gain or weight loss, that's a level of objectification that is quite high. Not only are it doesn't just represent a pursuit of strictly the physical, but it also is a very proactive dismissal of the whole.
Yes,
There's a lot going on there
and
that needs to
it's
be changed.
and I would definitely say it falls into the category of abuse.
Yeah.
We're going to be raw and real about it.
Again,
That's
intentional or not, right?
intentional or not. Yeah, it is. To finish up, Steve, what do you do as a partner in this situation?
Yeah, it's a
Right?
good question. And it's something, and this is important, ladies, and we know this is why she originally wrote in. So like we kind of kept her question to the end. So apologies there, but hopefully the rest of this has been helpful for her and for others listening. So what is hers to own in this process? Because it would be really easy, right, to just say from again a justice perspective, well, he caused the bullshit, so it's his stuff to own. And that sounds really great, and it even moralistically makes sense. But recovery is not a moralistic argument, it's a clinical one. And so we have to look at actually what is, not necessarily what is fair, right? That's the unfortunate reality that we are dealing with here.
I mean, if you think of her, what if her partner had gotten drunk and was driving in a separate car and crossed the median and crashed into her head on, and now she finds herself in a hospital in traction and horribly injured. Now what? Was he the one that caused it? Yes. Did she deserve it? No way, not in any way, shape, or form. Yet she's in that hospital bed, broken to pieces, and now she gets to decide, what do I do next? Can
Yes.
he help? Can he provide an environment? Can he pay for all the medical bills? Can he come and visit her every day? He can do and should be doing all those things. Yet she's the one with the healing and the main healing on her side, isn't she?
Well, and not even and we use that example of the car crash in our work in D2C frequently, and it's an apt one because That isn't just, it doesn't just apply to him. It even applies to the professionals helping her,
That's true.
right? The doctor, I mean, she could have the best doctors on planet Earth who provide the best surgery and the best whatever. But even then, who does the healing happen? All these people around, they at the end of the day just create the structure, right? It's her that actually does the healing. And
Yeah.
so from healing from the wounds that he has caused, she needs to figure out what is involved. What does my care team look like? And I love what Mark said. Emotionally, let's be real. I may love him and he may love me, but what is actually healthy right now at the stage that we're in this process? Do I want him metaphorically visiting me on the daily or no? Like, what does communication from him look like right now? What feels safe and authentic for me? What am I going to need from him, and what's the time frame on that? We addicts, we have a really nasty habit of causing damage for years and decades and then wanting to heal it, move on from it, and move forward as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
Well, it took years to get here or decades to get here, and it may not take the same amount of time to get out of this, but it will take a while.
Yeah.
And so we have to be patient with that. Her not only going back to this care team piece, her seeking and actively growing a support system external to the partner is critical. Many partners fall into the pitfall that being, and I'm going to probably have to say this for emphasis, being absent from the damage is enough. It's not. It isn't enough to simply move away from the blast zone. Too often we think that if I can just get out of the radiation of this thing, then I'm okay. No, you're not. What do I need to actually heal from this and fix the damage that's caused, right? So we need to be pursuing that. And we understand that part why partners get into that place. It's easy when you've been in a place where you've been either emotionally abused or traumatized or both in a relationship. When all that goes away, how does it feel? So freaking good. Finally, the hurting stopped.
Yeah.
But an absence of hurting is not equitable to a presence of healing. They're
Right.
different.
Right. Yeah. She needs an outside support system, right? A support group, other women who have been through what she's been through that she can lean into, and all the different aspects of that support system external to her partner. A huge one, and this one just breaks my heart. Cultivating self-worth and self-esteem and an identity outside of the relationship.
Absolutely.
Now, you want to talk about unfair and inequitable and pretty much lousy crap. You mean I can't look to this man who supposedly committed to me and told me I would be exclusive forever and that he would worship, adore, and cherish and pursue and consider me? I can't look to him for my self-esteem and my worth? How is that fair? Right?
Well, and it's not, and unfortunately, this can demonstrate. It doesn't in all cases, but it sometimes demonstrates where sometimes the damage caused being tied into betrayal is sometimes amplified by other issues surrounding either codependency or an imbalance of where we're getting what before the betrayal ever happened, right? Because technically in a relationship, what we want to be shooting for in the optimal setting is that we're finding our value independent of our partner, then bringing that to the table. We share in it, we celebrate in it, and we build each other up, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
oftentimes that hasn't happened for a variety of reasons. Sometimes of our because of upbringing or the way the relationship formed or whatever the case is. But the need for that now is critical. And again, depending on the level of damage and where she's at, that might either be it might involve him to a limited degree, or it may just need to happen completely independent of him, right? Because she needs to figure out what her identity and her value is. Really, what it is, she needs to figure out what her identity and value and worth is outside of this relationship.
Yeah.
And in a loving way, she needs to be able to say, you know what, I love my husband, but screw him for a minute. What makes me just valuable all on my own? My value should not be primarily derived from the fact that he wants me or doesn't want me. And she said something really telling in her question. I actually want to read that because I wanted to put a spin on that. That was really important. She says, "How can how can I come back from this decades-long self-esteem massacre by him and feel like a truly loved woman again, woman with worth? This is the change I would make to this amazing partner who wrote in. How do I come back from this decades-long self-esteem massacre by him and feel like a truly lovable woman with independent worth?"
with the independent worth. Yeah,
Lovable. That doesn't mean loved by him. My value is not going to be based on whether he chooses to love me or not. It's going to be based in my capacity to give love and to receive it and my desirability because of who I am
exactly.
as Tina or Carrie or whatever her real name is, right? Not base it in Carrie and Jim and how Jim feels about Carrie.
Yeah. Yeah. And the last part of this is Steve and I see this last part kind of in two parts. Her finding her true authentic voice and being able to share it, to get it out there. I have a voice, and that voice is in what two ways? I am going to start sharing with you the direct impact that your continuing bad behaviors are having on me in this relationship. I am going to keep you informed about what this means to me. And if based on me sharing that impact and those feelings with you on a regular basis, if you decide not to change and not to do anything different, then we're going to start talking about whether this is a compatible relationship at all. So there's that ongoing voicing of the impact for her and what her wants and needs are in this relationship and her placing boundaries around those. Here are my authentic wants and needs, and here are the boundaries I have for those being met. And if you continually violate those boundaries and my wants and needs, now we begin to call into question whether we should be together at all. So that's one aspect of a voice. The other aspect is amends for the damage that has been done. And what does that look like? You could talk about that for a second, Steve, as we close up.
About which part? I'm sorry.
The amends for the damage done, right? There's
Yeah.
ongoing expressing of the voice about what you're still doing, but what
Well,
about
and
what you've done?
yeah, and there is that whole side for the addict, right? And the needs to figure that out. For a partner, and amends process, we won't get into this, in detail right now. We're wrapping up, but the amends process, I should say, is there's a couple of things to keep in mind with that. One, amends is different from forgiveness. We as addicts, we bear that responsibility of making an amends independent of whether forgiveness is received. Forgiveness is a bonus. Forgiveness and amends are not the same thing.
Correct.
But the other thing to keep in mind as well is as an addict, I have to maintain a delicate balance in the amends process of one, giving my partner space to figure out what her needs are, while at the same time proactively coming up with ways in which I can provide an amends and presenting that information to her as well. Right? That's kind of the magic key, if you will, for providing that optimal solution for where amends can happen. I guess the last thing that I would say about that amends process, and I kind of touched on this before, is that amends, guys, there is not a time frame on that. And I know that frustrates the hell out of you, but it is
I
what it
know it
is.
does. Yeah.
Because we know we want it to be fixed. We know we just want to move on. But again, the damage that happened here was over time. It's complex and there's not an easy fix. But amends is a two-part system, like I said. And the other side of that is a partner also taking active steps to figure out as she moves along in the healing process. And this can only happen once she figures out the extent of the damage, what is going to be needed.
Yeah.
Right.
What does she need as amends? Yeah. What
Yeah.
does that?
What is that actually going to look like? How's that going to go? I know that this is kind of out of order because this is different from where we talked about, but I did want to make sure we said this to this partner because we do have tremendous sympathy for her. Whatever you do to this amazing partner who wrote in, just remember a couple of things. First, you didn't ask for this. Okay. Two, you didn't cause it. Three, you don't deserve it. And four, you can't fix him.
Mm.
That is, I guess you could tie that in with the amends process now I think about it, because part of this is if there are any elements, and I pick up little pieces that this partner may be, as well as any other partners listening to this, please do not own his stuff. Lord knows that one's own insecurity can cause a partner to do that and say, well, maybe it is me, maybe it's this. God knows that in this situation where he has said things like that, right, that it can be very difficult for a partner to move away and to move out of that thinking. And so you may have to trust us and then learn more about it in your therapeutic and healing process. But this is not your fault.
No.
There is no, contrary to what his brain may be telling him or what logic may be telling or whatever, there is no breast size, absence or presence of lingerie, crazy role playing, or anything else that would ever be a reason for him having not gotten into this mess or gotten into this mess
Or staying in it.
or staying in it. Right? We addicts, we make the decisions we make. There are reasons behind them, but they will never be excuses. And partners are love, whatever else it is not a performance-based process. When we
Yeah.
truly learn to love is when we truly learn to choose and embrace one another as we are and to support each other through transparency. And very little of that has happened here up to this point. So,
Uh, yeah, such a great point. Well,
all
hey,
right.
thanks everybody for being with us, for kind of walking through a really difficult topic. We hope that it's opened your minds and your hearts, and hope that we've provided something valuable to this amazing partner who wrote into us.
Yeah.
Again, if you have questions you want to address around PBSE, send them in. We're about 4 or 5 weeks behind right now in the number of questions we've received. If you want to get immediate questions, come on over to the Dare to Connect program. Five live sessions a week where we answer questions immediately and in great depth. So we'd love to see you come over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
Guys, have a great rest of your week and be safe, be well, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Everything expressed on the PBSE podcast are the opinions of the hosts and the participants and is for informational and educational purposes only. This podcast should not be considered mental health therapy or as a substitute thereof. It is strongly recommended that you seek out the clinical guidance of an individual qualified mental health professional. If you're experiencing thoughts of suicide, self-harm, or a desire to harm others, please dial 911 or go to your nearest emergency room.